So as we continue to talk about the way business owners think as opposed to maybe employees, I want to give you another example that I think was tremendously helpful for me understanding what I was really looking at with the Primerica opportunity, and it allowed me some success early on as I was building my team of people. And again, stepping outside of maybe the Primerica business model, when you just look in North America, the past 50, 60, 70 years, a couple of business models that gave average and ordinary people a chance to experience incredible success, and business models that I think pretty much anybody could have taken advantage of. Now, most of us didn't, but I think we could have. What was this? One of the business models was a business model of broker businesses, and you've got different insurance brokers and real estate brokers and mortgage brokers, and just to kind of give you a visual concept, and I'm just going to use real estate. Obviously, we don't sell real estate at Primerica, but I think everybody's at least familiar with a real estate company or real estate firm or what it looks like. And another business model that gave average and ordinary folks a chance to experience above average success was franchise businesses. And again, obviously, Primerica is not a franchise, but I'm going to draw some parallels just for visual purposes today. And I want you to think about maybe in your neighborhood or wherever you live, maybe some of the biggest names in real estate. I mean, you've got national names, but there might be some successful folks around you as well. Now, and I want us to ask ourselves, how did these people build these businesses? I mean, certain names do come to mind when I think of national real estate firms, and these people built empires. I mean, there's, in North America, some of these companies, I mean, almost every neighborhood has a house for sale today by some of these companies. And we have to ask ourselves, what would their strategy have been to build their businesses? Do you think that these titans in real estate, do you think they sat down 50 years ago and said, you know what, here's my plan to take over the industry. I'm going to sell every house by myself. Right? Absolutely not, right? Even the concept is laughable. We ask ourselves, okay, well, what did they do? What was their plan? Well, these guys went out and recruited people the industry would call brokers, and brokers are the ones that run local offices. It might be a national name, but some owner locally that runs that office. And we got to ask ourselves again, what was their business plan? I'm going to sell every house by myself. Well, not at all. You would never buy a real estate brokerage to go sell houses by yourself. Those people recruited folks that we call agents or realtors. And these are the people that help families buy and sell houses. Now, an agent, might make, let's just say, anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000 a year, just as an example. A broker might make $250,000 a year, and these big companies nationally might make, a couple of $1 billion. But what you have here is you've got a big business owner that recruits a small business owner, and a small business owner recruits a salesman. Now, the reason in this example that the agent makes the least amount of money is there's only one person whose efforts the agent can get paid from, their own. If you don't sell, you don't eat. But a broker can get paid off of all of their agents, and these big outfits get paid off the whole deal. The same is true in most franchise outfits. And, franchise first made popular in fast food, but now a myriad of business opportunities have become franchise, not ours, but a bunch of them. You think about these folks that built these big chains. If you were going to build an international brand in fast food, do you think that, whoever built that, do you think their goal was to wake up every day and cook burgers, flip burgers, serve burgers? Absolutely not. Those people recruited folks that we call owners or operators. Right? But do you think the folks in your neighborhood that bought a franchise, they bought it so they could wake up and cook burgers, flip burgers, serve burgers? Yeah, absolutely not. They recruit people that are called employees. And they pay employees, $8 an hour to work at the store, $35,000 to manage it. The owner might make, let's say, $250,000. Again, what we've got is a big business owner that recruits a small business owner, and a small business owner recruits an employee. And guys, that's not kind of how those businesses get built. That's exactly how those businesses get built, which means at this point in our conversation, we do need to talk just a little bit about perception. See, I've talked to folks before, once they look at Primerica, they're like, oh, wait. So this is one of those things where you can recruit somebody who can recruit somebody. Oh, no, I've seen something like that before. I'm like, what do you mean you've seen something like that before? Every business you've ever seen is like that. And we have to be very careful about the people that we listen to. See, most of us, look, we're products of our environment. And we get taught to think like the people around us and do the things the people around us do. And so when you think about, the perceptions that some people might have if they've never been exposed to business before, right, they might think this is a little bit silly, right? And so, most of my family and friends, when I got started, most of my family and friends were, they were in sales or they were employees. I had friends and family that sold cars, sold houses, sold jewelry, sold cell phones. But honestly, a salesman's a salesman. And I had friends and family that were employees in healthcare, employees in retail, employees in manufacturing. But an employee is an employee. Not bad people, incredible people, just economically kind of at the bottom of the equation. So imagine how crazy it must have sounded to them after I saw Primerica and I came home and told them, I'm going to be a businessman. I'm going to build a financial business. I'm going to recruit 1,000 agents. We're going to open up 50 offices all across the Midwest. Imagine how crazy that must have sounded. I mean, they reacted like, are you out of your mind? What you're going to do what? You're going to recruit me? Are you crazy? And guys, when these folks tell you that recruiting is crazy, they don't really mean recruiting is crazy. They've just never done any recruiting before. You see, at this position in corporate North America, we've all been taught to get recruited. Look, you probably know that there are classes in college today where all they teach you is how to put together a resume, how to ask the right questions on a job interview, and essentially beg for a job. So all of my buddies come out of college, they go buy a $10 sheet of paper, not a ream, a sheet, cardstock. They type up a resume. What's on a resume? Whatever I think you want to hear is what's on a resume. They go put on their one and only suit. They go sit in somebody's office, sit in a way they've never sat, and start speaking a language they've never spoken. Like, my professional ambitions are to use my diversified talents in your global operation. And you're like, oh man, here we go again. And then the interviewer says, well, tell me, sir, tell me, miss, what would you describe as your greatest weakness? And what do we say? Oh, my greatest weakness is I'm a perfectionist or I'm an overachiever, right? We're taught to say those things because we're taught to get recruited. So if I would have gone back to my family and friends and said, okay, well, I still do want to be successful in business, but if you think recruiting is a really cheesy way to do it, what's your advice? All of them would have given me the exact same advice because it's the middle class way to start a business. All of them would have said, Jeff, you have to go back to school and finish your bachelor's. Because I dropped out. Now listen, I'm not telling you to drop out. If you're in school, stay in school. I'm not promising you're going to be successful if you drop out of school, but I dropped out. They said you got to go back and finish your degree. And then get a couple years of experience working with a big company and then go back and get your MBA. And then a couple more years experience with a bigger company. And then, Jeff, then you're ready to start your business. Isn't that what they all say? Well, here's my deal. Name me somebody that actually did it that way. Name me just one. Because that's not the stories I read. If you study most successful business owners in North America, here's the story. Started a business, failed. Started a second business, failed. Started a third business, got rich. In fact, if you think about some of the biggest names in business, right? Bill Gates dropped out. Steve Jobs dropped out. Zuckerberg dropped out. Michael Dell dropped out. Oprah dropped out to go get into the game. Because what's the best way to get experience working for yourself? Work for yourself. What's the best way to get experience running a business? Run a business. So if I would have listened to my friends and family, they were wrong and I would have failed. And I can't tell you how important that one sentence is and how many people that I'll sit down and talk to that are all excited that saw an incredible opportunity and local success willing to teach them how to be successful in that opportunity. They go home and they start talking to some broke cousin or broke friend who's never owned anything and asking those people if they think this is a good idea. What do you expect them to say? Of course not. And then they call me the next morning and said, hey, I've been thinking, which isn't true at all because if you were thinking, you would go back to the Primerica office and start your training right now. But anyway, I digress. But let's pretend for just a second that I didn't come from the middle class. Let's pretend that I came from the wealthy, that my family owned businesses and, had time and money. Dad was able to, hang out with the kids all the time or volunteer for church and missions. And let's say that I turned 20, 25 years old and it's time for me to go make my mark in business. And let's say that my dad's got a buddy, maybe he owns one of the biggest real estate firms in town. We'll call him Bob the broker. And I decide I want to go into real estate. And so I call my dad's buddy, Bob, and I say, hey, Bob, I'd like to be just like you. Can I buy you lunch and pick your brain? Bob says, yeah, let's meet. So I go buy lunch for Bob and we sit down and I say, Bob, listen, man, I need you to know before you give me any advice, I've already decided for my first year, I'm not going to recruit any agents. He looked at me like, are you crazy? Well, how do you think I sell 200 houses a month, Jeff? See, a broker without an agent is an agent. What are you, nuts? And I say, you know what, maybe I didn't think this all the way through. Real estate might not be my thing. And I want to go a different direction. Let's say my dad's other buddy owns some sandwich shops. Let's call him Fred, the franchise owner. I know it's corny, but you'll remember it. And I call up Fred. I say, listen, I'm buying a sandwich shop. I want to be just like you. Can I buy you lunch and pick your brain? And so I go do the same thing with Fred. And I say, Fred, listen, I want to be just like you, but I need you to know for the first year, I'm not going to hire anybody. He would start looking around for the hidden camera like he was being punked because nobody's that stupid. He said, well, what are you going to do, Jeff? You're going to order the sandwich, make the sandwich, clean it up, cashier the sandwich 7 days a week, 365 days a year? What are you, crazy? And what's my point? You know this already. Anytime you come to a fork in the road, and just in life, no matter which decision you make, somebody's talking trash. Look, if you choose to go to the right, everybody on the left calls you crazy. If you go to the left, everybody on the right calls you crazy. If you stay in the middle, both sides call you lazy and indecisive. Either way, somebody's talking trash. Here was my dilemma. If I recruited people, these guys called me crazy. If I did not recruit people, these guys called me crazy. Either way, I was going to be called crazy. My decision was this. You guys can call me crazy all the way to the bank. I'm going here. Because in North American business, the only two positions that exist are to recruit or get recruited. That's it. And as powerful as that concept is, there's one more piece of this analogy that I think's had even more to do with our success in understanding what we really have our hands on. And here's how I explain this. See, I came into Primerica, like most people come into Primerica, asking all the wrong questions. Right? And it's not really our fault. Again, I said we're products of our environment, but I was always trained to think a certain way, so I asked certain questions. And see, at the employee level of most corporations, the focus, the questions we ask have everything to do with the customer, with the client. So I came in asking questions about that. Where do I find my clients? How do I get more clients? How do I, make sure we got client satisfaction, client retention, upsell the client referrals? The focus is all about the client. And now listen, we do a fantastic job helping our clients. I mean, we're awarded frequently in the industry for customer satisfaction. So don't put words in my mouth that aren't there. I'm giving you the mindset here of building a North American business. But the focus is all about the client. Even in mid-level management, all the focus is on the client. See, I think quite frankly, if you were to think about some of the icons that built great franchise businesses, and some come to mind, especially in fast food, I think if we went and talked to some of these people and we showed them the Primerica business model, I think the questions they would ask would be very different than the questions I asked when I got started. I think the first question they might ask would be, you know what? What's the maximum number of locations I could run? I'd have to say, man, that's a really great question. I haven't thought about that. I mean, there is no maximum, I guess. And number two, right? What are the territory restrictions on my locations? I said, wow, well, we don't have any territory restrictions. I mean, you got to be licensed in whatever state or province you're in, but you could open an office right next door to me if you wanted to. And you say, well, who can I get to run these locations? I'd say anybody you want to. I mean, they got to be 18. They got to be a good person, but anybody you want to. They'd look back at me and say, so you're telling me that I can have as many as I want, anywhere I want them, and get anybody I want to run them? I'd say, yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. From that second forward, all they'd be thinking about is who do I know in DC or LA or Miami or Toronto? All they'd be thinking about is people and locations, and I came in asking who wants to buy a policy. You see the difference? By the time I might find 10 clients, they could have 10 offices up and running all across North America. And see, the reason I tell you that is this. In our business model today, right, I think it's similar that you could really choose to think like any of these three people that we were talking about today. And you're really not going to get a lot of pressure from us after today. We just want you to know what's on the table. There are some people in our company that just love to sell. They're agents. They're personal financial reps. That's all they ever want to do. They love the before and after. They love the client interaction. They love the relationships. Some that are really good make 50, 60 grand. Some that are excellent at what they do might even make six-figure incomes. But I think they're pretty limited for going much higher than that because, well, there's only 24 hours in a day. And at some point we get tired. Or we could think a little bit bigger. Maybe like some of the people that want to move on to become regional vice presidents, where they might say, you know what, I don't really want to have to go find all the clients. I want to find the people who find the clients. In which case, most of them make a lot more money. Or we could think bigger yet by some of the people that build great big hierarchies and say, you know what, I don't even want to find the people who find the clients. I want to find the people who find the people who find the clients, in which case, I think, again, you maximize your opportunity. And so I tell you that one more time to emphasize what you're looking at. I wasn't thinking that big when I got started in Primeric, and I'm not suggesting you're thinking that big either. I just think it's important at the beginning that you know exactly what you have the potential to do.